Beneath the heavy stone walls of medieval castles, behind their cold silhouettes rising against winter skies, there existed a world far warmer and far more human than most modern minds can imagine. We tend to picture the Middle Ages as an age of chill and hardship, where men and women lived wrapped in coarse wool, shivering by primitive fires, resigned to drafts slipping through every crack in the stone. But those great fortresses, designed to endure war and time, also contained secrets of comfort, ingenuity, and warmth, techniques forgotten or overlooked in our age of electricity and central heating. Tonight, let us walk through those echoes of warmth, step by step, as candles flicker in shadowed halls and the crackle of medieval hearths returns to life. In the castle's great hall, warmth was not simply a matter of survival. It was ritual. At the heart of winter life stood the hearth, vast, deep, and reverberating with the scent of burning oak and pine resin. Flames curled upward beneath the darkened stones, sending soft waves of heat across the long wooden tables. The hall itself, with its high ceiling and banners rustling gently in the rising warmth, was both sanctuary and symbol. Fire meant life, wealth, and stability. To command fire was to command comfort in a world where nature could be merciless. But warmth in these stone giants was rarely random. It was engineered. Beneath the floors of some royal residences, hidden voids and channels carried heated air, a medieval cousin to underfloor heating, hypocaust systems inherited from Roman genius and adapted by those who came centuries later. Stone absorbs heat slowly but holds it long. Once warmed, a chamber could stay pleasant long after flames died to embers. And in chambers used by nobility, wall hangings, heavy tapestries embroidered with scenes of legend and lineage, did more than impress the eye. They trapped warmth, softened echoes, and stopped stone from leaching heat from the body. Now imagine the layers of clothing that made warmth not merely an environment, but a cocoon. Fine linen beneath soft wool, then fur if winter sharpened beyond comfort. Cloaks lined with fox or marten. Slippers of tanned leather with wool felt. Gloves not only for outdoors, but indoors, especially at dawn when stones still held the breath of night. Clothing was architecture worn on the body, insulation perfected through necessity and craft. Drafts existed, yes. Harsh winds too. But medieval builders were not ignorant. Doors were placed in ways that guided air away from living spaces. Screens of wood, leather, or wool divided halls and redirected cold currents. Window shutters, thick and tight-fitting, closed against frost-laden gusts. In wealthier castles, thin panes of horn or old parchment replaced open slits, turning wind's howl into a distant whisper. And above, the wooden beams of ceilings acted as warming shields, catching rising heat and sending it back downward in gentle waves. Comfort also lived in routine. The body adapted to rhythm. Winter meals were hearty and warm, stews simmered for hours, spiced with herbs to kindle heat from within. Spiced wine mulled over coals. Thick bread still warm from stone ovens. The warmth of food was as sacred as the warmth of fire, nourishment woven with comfort. Night, of course, was its own world. Bedchambers smaller than halls, designed not for grandeur but for warmth. Beds raised high, for heat rises. Layer upon layer of blankets, furs, and woolen sheets. Bed curtains drawn to trap warmth, turning a small wooden frame into a private sanctuary of softness and breath-warm air. A small brazier glowing nearby, its coals carefully tended. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the gentle rhythm of medieval sleep, steady breathing, fire crackling faintly, a world wrapped in furs, quiet and warm beneath stone. Even the floors spoke warmth. Reed mats, rushes scented with herbs, lavender, thyme, sweet flag, insulated stone and filled rooms with subtle comfort. They were replaced often in noble homes, not only for cleanliness but for pleasure. Soft beneath the foot, fragrant when warmed by air and movement. And yet warmth was more than method. It was atmosphere. Imagine candlelight, dozens upon dozens, not cold and sharp like modern LED, but thick, golden, dancing gently. Shadows moving softly across carved wood, tapestries shimmering with threads of gold under low flame. Light warming the mind while fire warmed the flesh. The kind of light that belongs to quiet reading, whispered conversation, the turning of parchment pages. Those who lived in castles did not merely endure cold. They mastered it. They turned raw stone into sanctuary. And when winter storms beat against the battlements, and wind curled around arrow slits and lonely towers, those inside gathered close, by fire, by voice, by human presence. Warmth in the Middle Ages was not simply thermal. It was emotional, communal. It lived in shared meals, shared laughter, shared stories told by firelight as snow settled gently beyond thick walls. Now, feel the scene pause. Hear the embers breathe. The medieval world was not barren of comfort. It was rich in rituals of warmth that we, with all our modern conveniences, have quietly forgotten. Warmth was earned, nurtured, shared. And in that effort, comfort became not an expectation, but a treasure. Let us continue deeper. And so we descend further into the quiet warmth that once breathed through stone corridors and echoed under vaulted ceilings, deeper into a world where comfort was not a convenience but a craft, where every gesture, every flicker of flame, every fold of cloth was part of a long and ancient dance between human ingenuity and the cold breath of winter. Castles, for all their solemn majesty and hardened exteriors, were living beings in their own way. Their stones held memory, their beams carried the warmth of countless fires, and their corridors whispered with the gentle history of footsteps moving through centuries. To step inside one on a winter night was not to enter a prison of cold, but a sanctuary built by minds that understood how to bend the harsh world into gentler shapes. Within the private chambers of nobles, warmth took on a more intimate character. A lady of the court, wrapped in layers of embroidered wool, sat by a window alcove, not to gaze out at the snow, but to feel the filtered light through the oiled parchment panes. A small brazier near her feet glowed like a resting heart, radiating a soft, tangible comfort that warmed the soul as much as the skin. A fur-lined cloak hung over a carved chair, not abandoned but patiently waiting. She held a book, parchment-bound, illuminated with gentle pigments. Her fingers traced letters as though they too were warm, each stroke a quiet conversation with time. Behind her, thick curtains embraced the stone walls, transforming cold into stillness, hardness into velvet calm. Warmth in such rooms was not loud. It did not roar like a modern furnace, did not hum artificially in pipes hidden behind plaster. It breathed, it shimmered, it drifted like memory. A servant entered silently, tending to the coals with practiced grace, adding a scented sliver of wood that hissed gently and released a whisper of pine resin into the air. The noblewoman did not look up, she did not need to. Comfort was ritual, and ritual was comfort. Elsewhere in the castle, a scribe bent over his desk, illuminated only by a beeswax candle. The flame glowed with that unmistakable warmth, golden, soft-edged, neither harsh nor hurried. Beeswax was the light of those who could afford gentleness. He dipped his quill in ink thick as midnight and wrote slowly, each stroke deliberate. The warmth around him was modest but real, a brazier by his side, a thick wool cloak over his shoulders, a cup of spiced cider cooling nearby. Outside, wind brushed against the arrow slits, testing them. Inside, there was only the sound of quill on parchment and the steady, living heartbeat of fire. Comfort, in a medieval castle, was layered not only in stone and fabric, but in people. It lived in companionship, in tasks shared, in voices echoing softly in enclosed spaces. Consider the servants' quarters, humbler, closer, but no less rich in warmth. Straw-filled mattresses lifted bodies off the cold floor, woolen blankets passed down through hands that valued them like heirlooms, small braziers shared between friends who laughed quietly before sleep. Where one fire warmed many, so too did presence. A castle was never truly silent in winter. Even in stillness, it hummed with breath, with dreams, with the warmth of living bodies close together in a world where solitude could be as cold as frost. And there was the kitchen, the true heart of warmth. While the great hall showcased heat as status, the kitchen radiated it as life. Immense hearths crackled with flames that never fully died. Copper pots gleamed with steam rising from fragrant broths and stews, thick with root vegetables, herbs, and game brought in from the outer woodlands. Bread baked in deep ovens, its crust darkening to a rich brown, filling the air with a comfort so simple and ancient that even now, centuries later, the scent of freshly baked bread can quiet the soul. The warmth here was not delicate or symbolic. It rolled like a tide, heavy, fragrant, alive. Servants moved quickly, speaking little, their faces flushed by heat, their hands skilled in motions learned through repetition and tradition. In these kitchens, winter could rage outside as fiercely as it wished. Within, there was fire, and where there is fire, there is certainty. The baker, lowering fresh loaves into baskets lined with clean linen. The cook, stirring a pot so large it could feed dozens. A scullion tending to embers, cheeks glowing. Heat ran through this space like blood through veins. More than a room, it was the castle's beating heart, its pulse strong and steady against the cold beyond its walls. In corridors, warmth lived not in fire but in anticipation. Rushes underfoot softened every step, their herbal fragrance stirred with each passing tread. Tapestries guarded walls like silent sentinels, embroidered dragons, saints, kings, and lovers frozen mid-gesture, their threads warming air not by temperature but by presence. Each torch bracket held a flame that shivered when breeze attempted intrusion, and often it failed. Even the drafty corners carried purpose, reminders that warmth was not endless, that comfort was a blessing, not a birthright, that fire and cold performed a timeless dance and we, fragile and searching, stood between them. There were moments, too, when cold entered softly, not as an enemy but as contrast, to make the warmth sweeter. A door opened briefly to the courtyard, winter air slipping inside like a pale hand before being gently pushed back by stone, fabric, and flame. A knight returning from patrol removed gloves stiffened by frost, held them near the fire, and felt life return to fingers one breath at a time. Steam rose from his cloak as snow melted, drops landing on stone in tiny, delicate echoes. He said nothing at first. He simply existed in that moment, between hardship and refuge, between winter's bite and fire's embrace. Warmth was not uniform, and that made it precious. People moved through spaces with instinct, pausing near torches, resting by braziers, seeking heated stones wrapped in cloth and placed under blankets to ease sleep's first chill. Even the architecture understood rhythm, spiral staircases that held warmth closer on inner steps, narrow passages where torchlight pooled in soft amber puddles. Alcoves meant not only for archers but for quiet refuge against winter's breath. Night deepened. Somewhere in the great hall, the fire settled into a glow, its flames lower now, embers bright like ancient secrets. A dog slept curled at its edge, for warm, breath soft and steady. Footsteps softened as voices faded, replaced by a gentle hush that lived only in places built of stone and time. Outside, snow fell with a patience that only nature understands, each flake dissolving on contact with ancient walls warm from within. And as you walk through this remembered world, not as a stranger, but as a quiet observer, you begin to see that warmth in medieval castles was never merely heat. It was a way of life, a culture carved into stone and woven into wool, breathed through shared moments and silent labor. They did not fear winter as we imagine. They respected it, answered it, balanced it. Their comfort was not effortless, and perhaps because of that, it was deeper, richer, more real. For comfort earned through ritual does not fade easily from memory. And tomorrow, when dawn brushes pale gold across battlements and frost melts on lead-lined roofs, the fires will rise again, as they did for centuries. Someone will feed the embers. Someone will wake beneath layered blankets, stretch in warmth held through night by wool, stone, and silence. Someone will open shutters for the morning, letting winter see, but not touch, the life within. In that simple truth lies the secret of medieval warmth. It was not a battle against cold, but a relationship with it, a gentle defiance, a thoughtful embrace of what was harsh, a transformation of necessity into art. And now, as the last embers of our memory glow, we walk further, past the warmth of chambers and halls, toward the deeper mysteries of heat, comfort, and quiet survival in the heart of stone. And so, the night stretches onward, settling itself softly over the ancient fortress like a velvet cloak. Outside, winter breathes against the battlements, its voice a long, cold sigh trailing through the moats and frozen gardens. But within these walls, warmth remains not as flame alone, but as presence, a quiet certainty that flickers in every chamber, in every sleeping heart. It is a warmth earned, tended, and shared, and it lingers, like memory, like devotion. Walk now into the private solar of the Lord and Lady, a chamber placed high above the ground, where light enters generously by day and heat gathers in the stones. The fire here is smaller than in the great hall but burns with a steadier purpose, feeding not grandeur but intimacy. The flames move slowly, licking at seasoned logs taken from carefully stacked winter stores, each piece a promise gathered in autumn, prepared by hands who knew that warmth begins long before cold arrives. A carved bed stands near, its canopy drawn with thick fabric, rich velvet embroidered by deft fingers over countless evenings. Beneath the canopy, furs lie heavy and inviting, bear, perhaps, or wolf, or fox traded from far northern lands. A place not just to sleep, but to dream, to be wrapped in comfort that tastes of the earth and wilderness yet lies tamed within walls of stone. The lady sits near the fire, her hair unbound, a brush gliding slowly through dark strands that glow like silk in candlelight. A maid assists quietly, her movements gentle, almost reverent, for this nightly ritual is not mere vanity, it is peace. It is the shedding of day's formality, of courtly duties and measured speech, replaced now with soft hums and slow breath. The Lord removes a heavy fur mantle, placing it over a carved chair to dry from the evening's chill, his boots resting beside the hearth so leather may soften again. They do not speak loudly, words are exchanged in low, warm tones, where affection and comfort weave through every syllable. A cup of mulled wine, spiced with cinnamon and cloves, sends a ribbon of fragrant heat into the air. Outside, the wind may roar or whimper, it matters little here. Warmth is not simply temperature. It is trust, it is ritual, it is the quiet knowing that night brings not danger, but rest. Elsewhere, a servant descends narrow spiral stairs, each step warmed by the friction of centuries of passing feet. His lantern glows like a gentle star in the dark shaft, the flame steady within glass panes. He moves to tend coals in lesser chambers, for even if fires die, embers must live, ready to rise again before dawn. In some rooms, people sleep still wrapped in their garments, the thick wool tunic and linen shirt layered enough to make the cold irrelevant. In others, they rest beneath blankets woven by mothers and grandmothers, each thread a memory, each stitch a story held close to skin. The straw mattresses beneath them are freshened with herbs, lavender and rose petals and sweet hay mixed in, so dreams drift through fields even in the heart of winter stone. There is a chamber where children sleep, small hands curled under chins, little breaths puffing faint clouds in the cool night air. Though the room is modest, warmth gathers here more quickly, as if drawn by innocence. A nursemaid sits near a small brazier, mending garments by the dim glow, her eyes growing heavy with the same calm that cradles the children. Now and again she rises to tuck furs tighter around small shoulders, to lift a falling strand of hair from a sleeping brow. Her movements are soft, shaped by love, by duty, by the deep human instinct to protect warmth wherever it flickers. Imagine the sounds of this night, not silence, but harmony. The soft pop of wood releasing trapped sap into flame. The whisper of woven curtains shifting as warm air sighs upward. The gentle rustling of straw as sleepers turn beneath layers of wool. A dog's contented exhale. Footsteps padded by rushes. The distant murmur of kitchen servants finishing their final tasks before sleep, covering dough to rise by the warmth of banked coals, wiping the last sheen of steam from copper pots, setting bread near embers so it will greet dawn with softness and scent. Even the castle itself seems to breathe, stone expanding gently in heat, settling into stillness. And beyond these human echoes, the castle's very walls remember warmth. Stones darkened by centuries of firelight hold a kind of accumulated comfort, as though long-dead hearts still murmur within them. These walls have seen winters when snow rose against their sides like frozen waves, when wolves prowled the forests beyond, when nights stretched longer and colder than memory recalls. Yet they endured, because warmth was not an accident here. It was engineered, tended, revered. Move deeper now, into the oldest parts of the fortress, chambers that once served Roman masters, repurposed across generations. Beneath the floors, hollowed channels remain like ancient veins. Once, heated air flowed through them, carrying warmth from fires below that flickered long before the first medieval lord claimed this land. Touch the stones where your hand imagines warmth still lingering, not the warmth of flame, but the warmth of time, of lives layered like sediment, each generation preserving comfort as a sacred craft. In these hidden spaces, you feel not cold, but continuity. Outside, frost climbs window panes, tracing delicate patterns like frozen lace. The moon hangs above, casting pale silver across battlements and rooftops, reflecting off tiny icicles clinging to gutters and arrow slits. In the courtyard, snow blankets the earth, softening the world into silence. A lone guard walks slowly, breath clouding before him, cloak pulled close, boots pressing into snow that glows faintly under moonlight. He pauses near a torch fixed to the wall, drawing a moment of warmth from its flickering flame. He is not alone. Warmth follows him in the knowledge that inside, life rests peacefully, that his watch holds meaning because comfort sleeps undisturbed behind him. And as he turns again to his patrol, as ember, candle, and breath continue their gentle duet against the night's chill, you begin to understand. Warmth in the medieval world was not a fleeting sensation. It was an achievement forged by hands, by minds, by hearts. It was the art of turning danger into refuge, stone into shelter, winter into poetry. The castle holds its people close, as they hold warmth close. And in that embrace, in this balance between stone and fire, cold and flesh, night and dream, we glimpse a truth we often forget in our modern ease. Warmth is most precious when it is earned, when it is tended like a living flame, when it grows not from machines, but from humanity itself. And in this quiet hour, walking through memory's halls, you feel it, not heat on the skin, but warmth in the soul. A slow, ancient comfort. A belonging. A gentle reminder that even in the hardest age, softness lived, and comfort mattered, and people found ways not only to survive winter's breath, but to make it beautiful. Rest now in that glow, for the night is long, and the castle is warm. And so, as we move deeper into these stone labyrinths of the Middle Ages, it becomes clear that warmth was not merely a matter of survival. It was a philosophy, a quiet and stubborn defiance against nature. Each castle was a world with its own pulse, its own temperature, its own ritual of comfort. In the beginning, warmth meant fire, and fire meant life. Flickering flames in great halls were not only sources of heat but symbols of authority. When a king sat before a blazing hearth, his warmth was visible, tangible, proof that power, like fire, must be constantly fed. Guests in those halls understood it too. To sit close to the hearth was to sit close to influence. Farther away, the cold crept in, reminding everyone of their place. Yet, warmth in castles was never only about fire. It was also about stone and air, wood and wool, water and earth, each obeying hidden engineering principles long forgotten by casual history. Walls weren't simply thick, they were thermal reservoirs. They breathed in their own way. Cold seeped in, yes, but not as fast as one might think. Beneath tapestries, behind woven scenes of battles and saints, insulation existed, not as foam or glass fiber, but as layers of heavy fabric trapping pockets of air. Silk, linen, wool, an ancient science wrapped in artistry. And then there were floors. Cold stone beneath one's feet feels eternal, uncaring. But even this enemy was tamed. In certain chambers of wealthier lords, primitive underfloor heating existed. It wasn't glamorous. It was a system of tunnels beneath the stone through which warm air from a nearby fire would flow, like blood through veins. It was laborious, smoky, imperfect. But when frost coated the countryside and winter howled at the gates, a noble could walk barefoot in warmth while the world froze outside. This, too, was power. We tend to imagine medieval rooms as dark, cold caverns. But walk through a winter castle at dusk, and you'd hear wool brushing stone, soft padded footsteps, the rustle of cloaks lined with fur. You would feel heat radiating from braziers, smoldering bowls of charcoal set near walls, warming them so they slowly released heat back into the room like a memory of summer. You'd notice warm corners, carefully arranged seating, benches with thick cushions, draped furs catching and holding body heat like tender guardians. Even beds were fortresses of warmth. Heavy curtains fell around them, not as decoration, but as climate barriers. To slip into a medieval bed was to enter a private micro-world. Feather mattresses, fur blankets, layered linens, and a sealed cocoon of fabric holding each breath of warmth. Nighttime became a ritual of insulation, and morning a triumphant escape from a siege of cold that lasted until dawn. But warmth was not only crafted, it was preserved socially. Castles breathed warmth through people. Servants who stoked fires through the night, ensuring embers never died. Children playing near kitchens where bread baked before sunrise. Musicians and storytellers gathering bodies together, heat rising with laughter and song. In winter, life contracted toward the warmest heart of the castle, the great hall, where tables, feasts, and company created not just heat, but hope. Warmth was communal, intimate, and deeply strategic. Every placement of a window was a calculation against wind. Every chimney, a battle with smoke and draft. Every heavy wooden door was a final defense, separating biting cold from flickering hearth light. And outside, snow piled against battlements, wind whistled through arrow slits like a restless ghost. But inside, people carved warmth out of stone and winter bowed, just slightly, to human ingenuity. They did not merely heat their world, they understood the nature of cold. They respected it, worked with it, designed against it, enduring long nights and darker seasons with patience and craft we seldom recognize today. So when you imagine a medieval castle, do not picture empty halls echoing with cold despair. Instead, see the glow of embers beneath iron grates, the hush of tapestries shifting slightly in the warm currents of a hidden flue, a noble hand wrapping around a cup of spiced wine, steam rising like a prayer into the dim lamplight. See warmth as it truly was, an art, a discipline, a quiet triumph. And feel, for a moment, that ancient comfort, as if stone walls are gathering around you, as if wool rests upon your shoulders, as if outside, winter rages unheard, while here, in this forgotten sanctuary of history, the night belongs to fire and peace. And so, in the quiet pulse of castle nights, warmth became not merely a physical sensation but a philosophy of survival, a culture of comfort born from necessity and refined by tradition. As winter pressed its pale face against the walls, life inside adapted not only in architecture but in rhythm, in behavior, in the way time itself moved. In warm months, a castle was expansive, open courtyards filled with voices, armor gleaming under sun, horses stamping in stables, banners fluttering in a benevolent breeze. But winter closed everything inward. Footsteps softened. Voices lowered. People spoke closer, shoulders touching, breath visible in the half-light. It was as if the entire world retreated into itself, like a creature conserving energy beneath a blanket of snow. Within this hush, routines emerged like sacred rituals. The first light of morning barely broke the frost before servants stirred embers, coaxing timid sparks into flames, breathing warmth into the bones of the castle. A hearth could not sleep, it could only rest, awaiting dawn like a loyal sentinel. Wood was selected carefully, oak for slow, steady heat, beech for a clean burn, fruit trees for fragrance on rare indulgent nights. And then there was charcoal, precious, controlled, slow burning, used where smoke could not be tolerated. In narrow private chambers where secrets were whispered, where maps lay unfurled and royal signatures dried, small, glowing braziers silently radiated comfort. The warmth was subtle, but it lingered, the kind of heat you only appreciate when it's gone. Candles added their own warmth, gentle and golden, their flames dancing softly in the draughtless stillness. Beeswax candles in particular, reserved for the wealthy, filled the air with a faint, sweet scent, a reminder that even winter could carry the smell of summer's flowers if one had the means to preserve it. And yet, warmth in castles was more than fire and stone, it was texture. Thick wool garments layered like armor against the cold. Cloaks trimmed with fox or marten fur. Linen shirts worn close to the skin, holding heat like a second body. Gloves, hoods, fur-lined boots, a wardrobe of warmth crafted with care. Even color played a role. Deep reds and earthy browns seemed to pull heat into the body, while blues and grays belonged to the icy world outside the castle gates. Listen closely, and you can almost hear it, the soft brushing of wool over stone floors, the crackling of fire devouring logs, the gentle clink of iron vessels warming mulled wine. The air itself hums, low and steady, alive with quiet effort. And then, somewhere deeper inside the castle, down narrow steps, along corridors kissed by damp earth, lies the kitchen. It is the true heart of warmth. Huge ovens glow like ancient suns. Pots simmer, releasing fragrant secrets into the cold air. Bread bakes in thick loaves, its crust darkening, its scent traveling through halls like a promise. Spice broths simmer slowly, bodies gathering near the heat not merely to eat but to exist, to feel alive, to share warmth through closeness. Here, laughter rises more often than in the great hall, not regal, not ceremonial, but real, human, necessary. The kitchen is warmth not as privilege, but as life. And in contrast, imagine the world outside, harsh winds sweeping over battlements, ice creeping along the edges of towers, ravens perched above, feathers ruffled against the cold. Snow gathers in silent drifts against the outer gate. Footsteps vanish within minutes. The horizon dissolves into pale mist. A castle was not built to defy winter, but to embrace it, to stand strong, immovable, while the world beyond fought its brutal, indifferent battles. Inside, however, the warmth forms a cocoon of civilization. Scholars sit near small fires, ink thickening slowly in chilled air as quills scratch across parchment. Pages turn, ideas flicker like flames in the minds of monks and nobles alike. Even in winter, knowledge glows, steady, unwavering, a different kind of fire. Knights practice in the yard until frost stings their breath, then return to steam and warmth, metal clanking against stone as armor is removed piece by frozen piece. Their laughter echoes, hearty and alive, a defiance against the season. Children chase warmth instinctively, curling like cats near hearths, giggling beneath wool blankets, learning early that fire was not just heat, it was home. And when night falls fully, when darkness wraps the castle like a cloak, the warmth becomes deeper, almost sacred. Fires dim but never die. Heavy curtains close. Footsteps vanish into quiet. Candle flames soften the edges of stone, turning walls into gentle silhouettes. A medieval night was a private universe, sealed, protected, breathing warmth like a sleeping titan. And so, warmth was not simply felt, it was built, nurtured, defended. It lived in the rhythm of the castle, in the architecture of human resilience, in each ember carefully preserved as if it held the memory of the sun itself. To live then was to understand cold, and to honor warmth. To survive was to shape comfort out of raw nature. And to rest in a castle winter night was to feel the world outside disappear, leaving only the soft glow of fire, the whisper of wool, and the deep, ancient peace of stone that had learned, over centuries, how to hold warmth like a secret. And so, as winter deepened and days shortened into pale fragments of light, the castle did not merely endure the cold, it shaped life around it, sculpting human routine with quiet determination. The world outside could freeze, winds could scream like ancient spirits across the battlements, but inside, warmth was an intimate, curated ritual. There was something sacred in the way firelight traced over stone. In the evening hours, when torches flickered along corridors and iron sconces glowed like stars fallen from the heavens, an almost spiritual stillness settled in the castle. The harsh edges of stone softened, shadows danced like memories returning from older winters, and the long breath of the building could be felt in the walls, a pulse, slow and confident, as if the castle itself lived. To walk these halls at night was to witness life in its gentlest form. Servants padding silently, stoking coals, adjusting screens to keep drafts from noble chambers. Cloaked figures crossing courtyards, their steps hushed by frost. Monks or scribes carrying warm clay flasks tucked against their robes, prayers and ink flowing alike in cold-scented air. There was an art to moving quietly in winter. Footsteps were measured, voices softened, even laughter held warmth like a flame cupped in the hands. And always, the heart of comfort lay in gathering. Small circles around fires, nobles discussing matters under the calm glow of candlelight, families huddled in servant quarters sharing stories passed down through generations, guards exchanging murmurs beside braziers as snow drifted past arrow slits. Warmth was never solitary. It called for company. In great halls, long tables stood ready, wood gleaming from years of use, the memory of countless winter feasts etched into every grain. When the evening meal arrived, it did not rush. It unfolded. Steam rising from trencher plates, herbs simmering in broths, spiced mead warming hands and voices alike. Bread broke easily, conversation curled into corners like gentle smoke, and for a moment, for many moments, the cold outside did not exist. Food, too, was warmth, thick, hearty, made to outlast winter's cruelty. Roasted meats dripping juices into carved platters. Root vegetables softened to sweetness. Honey cakes dense with dried fruit, eaten slowly beside the fire. Even the simplest porridges thickened with grain carried comfort, each spoonful a promise that winter, like all things, could be endured. After the meal, silence returned not out of emptiness, but peace. Nobles reclined near hearths wrapped in fur-trimmed cloaks, their faces softened by firelight. Some listened to a lute's gentle plucking or a storyteller's low, rhythmic voice, tales of saints, legends of knights, whispers of old kingdoms where winters were harsher and heroes burned brighter. Children drowsed against wool cushions, their dreams scented with wood smoke and cinnamon. Outside, wolves might cry from distant forests, snow might gather against gates, stars might burn cold and sharp above the world. But within these walls, the castle held warmth like a vow. And as the last embers glowed in the hearth, nobles retired behind thick curtains, into worlds of wood and wool, where warmth clung like a loyal guardian. Servants checked every flame one last time, hands careful, movements sure, because letting a fire die was no small thing. It was a breach in the rhythm of survival. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the world hovered between frost and dream, only a few souls stirred, kitchen fires beginning again, a lone sentry stamping feet to keep blood moving, the castle breathing lightly under blankets of snow. This was medieval winter not as hardship, but as art, as discipline, as a whispered agreement between stone and flame. Here, warmth was not convenience. It was knowledge, craft, tradition, a burden carried with dignity. And in those moments, surrounded by ancient walls holding centuries of heat, cradled by firelight and silence, one could feel the truth of life in this era. Comfort was not taken for granted. It was earned, cherished, protected. A fragile ember in a world of ice, glowing, stubborn, eternal. And in those long winter nights, when the moon hung heavy and pale above the battlements, the castle revealed a different face, one few ever saw, unless they lived within its walls. It was a world between silence and breath, between the crackle of smoldering logs and the distant, muffled whisper of the wind pressing against stone. In these hours, warmth became not just a comfort but a guardian, the thin line separating the living world inside from the vast, indifferent cold outside. Servants moved like shadows, steady and practiced. Their hands were calloused from years of tending to flames, lifting logs, scraping ashes, cleaning soot, quiet tasks, but sacred ones. An untended hearth was a forgotten heartbeat, a dying coal, a crumbling piece of civilization. So they carried small iron pokers and wooden splinters soaked in pitch, humming softly to themselves as they coaxed new life from fading embers. Sometimes they paused to warm numb fingers near a brazier, exhaling softly, watching steam curl in the air. They never lingered long. Warmth was to be maintained, not consumed selfishly. It was duty, not indulgence. And high above them, in the private chambers of lords and ladies, warmth took on a different form. Thick rugs layered over stone, heavy tapestries touched by golden firelight, furs stacked in silent mounds ready to cradle sleeping bodies. Even the air felt richer here, honeyed by wax, softened by velvet and wool, heavy with the perfume of spiced oils warming slowly in clay bowls near the fire. If one listened closely enough, they could hear the soft sighs of settling timber, the flutter of curtains stirred by faint warmth rising up from floor vents, the low murmur of distant prayers whispered in a chapel where candles burned against the cold like fragile stars. Elsewhere, in the barracks, warmth was humbler, shared blankets, thick cloaks hung near braziers after patrol, boots drying slowly, steam rising from wet wool. Men slept shoulder to shoulder not only for safety but for heat, bodies acting as one living hearth. A comrade's closeness was life, solitude was frost. In the stables, horses exhaled clouds into dim lantern light, their bodies generating heat that made the space warmer than many noble rooms. Stable hands slept curled in hay near loyal animals, trusting breath and warmth more than any brick or cloth. The smell of straw and life replaced incense and silk here, but comfort did not discriminate. Warmth was warmth, whether it came from silk or sweat. And deep in the castle's belly, beyond cellars and storage rooms, lay a place few spoke of openly, the furnace rooms. Here, heat roared like a captive dragon. Great stone ovens and coal pits glowed with orange rage, and men worked stripped to the waist despite winter howling beyond the walls. Their skin gleamed with sweat, steam rising from their bodies as if they were forging themselves alongside the metal and tools they hammered. These were the hidden alchemists of comfort, nameless, faceless, rarely thanked. But without them, even kings would shiver. And above it all, night wrapped the castle in a quiet embrace. Candles burned down to stubs, fires settled into deep red embers, and breaths slowed into sleep. The castle rested. But warmth never slept. It smoldered patiently, like memory, like faith, like a promise passed from generation to generation. Winter will come, and we will endure it together. Even the cold seemed to respect the castle then, circling, searching, testing, but never breaking through. Outside, frost coated stone like crystal armor. Icicles hung like silent daggers from parapets. Snow drifted against the walls, piling higher, as though the world wished to bury the sanctuary in white silence. But within, warmth held. Not loudly, not proudly, but steadily, like the quiet heartbeat of humanity itself. And when dawn approached, not with light but with a subtle fading of stars, the first stirrings began once more. A door creaked softly. Boots touched the floor. A sleepy yawn. Then another spark, another log, another flame. Winter could take the world outside. But here, in the stone womb of history, warmth was eternal, a ritual, a science, a miracle shaped by human hands and stubborn hope. The castle breathed. And life continued. And as we moved deeper into the hidden anatomy of the castle, past the glowing hearths and peaceful winter chambers, we discovered that warmth, true warmth, was not always where it appeared to be. For beneath the velvet, beneath the wool, beneath the grand illusions of noble comfort, there lay a world of stone arteries and secret passages, a realm where fire crawled through darkness like a quiet serpent, feeding heat to chosen rooms above. These were the hidden channels of medieval warmth. Not magic, though they felt like it, but architecture older than many kings, borrowed from Romans, refined by monks, guarded like treasure. In some castles, the floor itself was alive. Beneath the polished stone slabs and rush-strewn corridors, narrow tunnels carried smoke and heat from distant furnaces. Warm air crept slowly through them, rising through carved vents no wider than a man's fist. A noble stepping barefoot in the dead of winter might feel warmth bloom underfoot, unaware of the labyrinth below. It was a whispered luxury, quiet, invisible, almost private. These underfloor passages were not straight or obvious. They wound through the bowels of the castle, twisting like veins, designed not only to warm but to confuse. For warmth and defense shared the same stone. If invaders breached the outer walls, these tunnels became escape routes, thin, narrow, suffocating paths through which only the desperate or the knowledgeable could crawl. Some led to hidden doors behind tapestries, others to small chambers lined with soot-black brick, where a lone guard could douse flames or stoke them brighter. Some exited far beyond castle walls, masked by boulders, disguised as wells, disappearing into forests or rivers like ghost roads. And inside those tunnels, the air was thick, a mix of ash, earth, and forgotten whispers. You could hear the castle breathing. Feel its warmth moving, inch by inch, like a heartbeat beneath your feet. Not everyone knew these corridors existed. They were not drawn on maps. They were taught, quietly, passed from master builder to heir, from steward to trusted servant. Knowledge of heat was knowledge of power. And there were other secrets too. In grand halls, large fireplaces stood proudly, wide enough for a man to step inside. Their chimneys rose like stone towers within towers, branching in hidden places like trees made of brick. Some had small ledges where watchmen could rest, invisible, listening to conversations below. Others held ladders carved into the mortar, allowing movement between floors unseen by the world. A flicker of flame in one room could mean warmth in another. A blocked flue could starve a chamber of heat, or trap a spy. There were whispers, even then, that some castles had, whispering chimneys, vents so carefully aligned that a murmur near a fire in one room could drift like smoke to another far away. A harmless architectural quirk, they claimed, or a deliberate tool for secrets. In those cold stone corridors, warmth and intrigue intertwined, curling like smoke through hidden ducts. And below, in the true depths, deeper than cellars, beneath wine vaults and grain stores, lay the furnace rooms and winding service tunnels. Damp earth pressed close to walls, flickering torches lighting the paths where workers moved like ghosts. Their footsteps were soft, their conversations hushed. They were caretakers of warmth, but also gatekeepers of knowledge. Sometimes, in those tunnels, a sudden warm draft would brush your face, like the exhale of a sleeping giant. Sometimes, a hollow wall would echo differently, revealing a hollow chamber behind it, untouched for decades. Sometimes, an old air channel, long forgotten, would sigh as winter wind pressed against its distant opening. These were not just heating systems. They were secrets carved in stone. A second castle hidden beneath the first. And above it all, nobles dined by firelight, never wondering how warmth climbed to meet them, never thinking of the labyrinth below, the quiet labor of stone and smoke and human breath. Warmth was elegance at the surface. But beneath, it was grit and engineering, sweat and soot, guardianship and secrecy. A castle was not merely built, it was tuned, like a great medieval instrument, each flue and corridor designed to carry heat and whisper silently through the veins of stone. And those who knew its secrets held power no storm could touch. And as the long night passed, and frost clung to arrow slits and battlements, the castle began to stir quietly, almost imperceptibly. Warmth, like a patient servant, had already prepared the rooms for life before the first eyes opened. Embers glowed in hearths, small braziers hummed their gentle heat, and hidden flues whispered through the stone, carrying warmth up to chambers where nobles still slept wrapped in furs and velvet. The first sound was subtle, a door creaking softly, a footstep muffled by rushes, the low sigh of wool adjusting under a body. Servants moved with practiced care, carrying torches and flasks, arranging blankets, coaxing coal to life, breathing warmth into the castle's veins before the day had begun. In private chambers, sunlight, pale and cold, pressed against window panes, tracing paths across walls and tapestries. But warmth had already arrived there. It had preceded the light, it had softened the stone, it had filled the room with gentle promise. A noblewoman stirred beneath layers of linens and furs, stretching slowly, her body awakening to the comforting pulse of fire beneath the floor. The aroma of spiced water heating for morning ablutions drifted across the room. A small brazier beside her bed exhaled tiny curls of warmth, as if urging her awake in kindness rather than command. In the kitchens, fires flared more brightly now, responding to human rhythm. Porridge thickened in clay pots, bread warmed against embers, and stews simmered slowly, filling the air with scents of root vegetables, herbs, and roasting meats. A cook adjusted coals with careful hands, sending a wave of heat outward that would travel through the castle's hidden channels, reaching the outer rooms just as the cold morning air tried to intrude. Even distant servants felt it, a quiet reminder that they, too, were embraced by the castle's warmth. Corridors hummed with life, soft, measured, respectful. Cloaks swished, leather boots pressed against rush-strewn floors, whispered greetings passed like delicate currents of heat. The castle was waking, but gently, not in haste. Every movement respected the rhythm of night's remaining shadow and the slow, patient spread of heat that had been tending silently for hours. In the stables, horses shifted, steam rising from their bodies into the crisp morning air. Stable hands moved quickly but quietly, arranging hay near their animals, tending to warm water and feed, aware that the cold outside demanded vigilance, while inside warmth had to be earned with labor and care. Even the hidden tunnels below the castle stirred. Air currents shifted, carrying lingering heat from the furnace rooms, distributing it through stone veins that no eye saw. Servants and workers descended carefully into these secret corridors to stoke coals, to check for blockages, to ensure the castle's hidden heart beat strong. These passages, long and winding, were the veins of life, carrying warmth where it was most needed, silent and unseen, shaping the castle's climate as skillfully as it shaped its defenses. And above, in the great hall, torches sputtered to life as stewards arranged tables for the morning meal. The sound of metal trays sliding across wood echoed softly, accompanied by the low hum of servants whispering to each other, orchestrating comfort as much as food. Soon, nobles would gather, robes brushing stone floors, hoods lifted to reveal faces warmed by careful layers of silk and wool. They would drink spiced water, eat warm bread, and move through the day supported invisibly by the hidden warmth that the castle had tended through the night. Even the air seemed alive. Warm currents rose from hearths, twisted through corridors, escaped briefly through arrow slits only to return, heavier and richer, softening the cold stone walls. Every step taken by those within felt lighter, every breath warmer. The castle itself was a living thing, breathing through its flues, its braziers, its hearths, and through the bodies it sheltered. And as the first sounds of day reached beyond the walls, crows calling across snow-laden courtyards, wind pressing against turrets, distant hooves on frozen ground, the castle held its warmth like a secret. Not a forceful blaze, not a fleeting comfort, but a patient, enduring heat. Its pulse matched the slow rhythm of life, the quiet ebb of centuries, the eternal negotiation between stone, fire, and flesh. This was how a medieval winter began, with hidden heat breathing in stone, with human care moving silently, with life adapting, enduring, and thriving in the intimate partnership of architecture and warmth. And in this slow, deliberate awakening, one could see that comfort was not luxury. It was intelligence. It was ritual. It was survival. Even in the heart of frost, the castle had already defeated the cold. And those who lived within it awoke not to struggle, but to embrace the day, surrounded by invisible heat, wrapped in stone, fire, and centuries of learned care. As the first morning light spread pale and thin over the battlements, the castle was already alive in ways invisible to the casual observer. Heat, carefully cultivated through the night, continued its quiet journey, flowing from hidden channels beneath stone floors, rising through vents into the private chambers, the kitchens, and even the guardrooms. The castle was awake, but in its own measured, deliberate rhythm, a slow and patient pulse that set the tempo for every step, every breath, every motion within. In the kitchens, the first flames leapt from embers, coaxed to life by hands familiar with every nuance of fire and smoke. Pots of broth began to simmer, steam curling and carrying warmth upward through concealed ducts into adjoining rooms. The scents of cinnamon, roasted meat, and spiced wine drifted into corridors, mixing with the dry, earthy smell of wool and the faint smoke lingering from night-long hearths. Even distant chambers benefited, the hidden architecture silently ensuring that warmth and scent followed the castle's daily movements. Servants moved with synchronized precision, yet in quiet solitude. A scullion carried hot water up a narrow spiral staircase to the chambers of a lady who had already risen, her heavy wool gown rustling softly as she adjusted the furs around her shoulders. Another servant descended into the underfloor tunnels, checking vents, redirecting airflow, ensuring that the channels of heat distributed themselves evenly. No one could see the full extent of this work, but it shaped life throughout the castle, dictating comfort, labor, and even the pace of conversation. Nobles emerged from their chambers as if guided by invisible currents. Their steps were light, for the floors beneath were warm, the stones softened by night-long flues. Cloaks that had rested near braziers were snug, their fabric permeated by lingering heat. Breakfast awaited them in the great hall, yet the meal was only part of the ritual, The true luxury was the subtle, pervasive comfort that flowed from hidden fires, engineered channels, and the tireless care of those who understood heat as both necessity and art. Outside, the courtyard gleamed with frost, horses stamping their hooves, servants moving quickly to care for animals and supply them with warmth in straw-filled stalls. But within the castle walls, the architecture did more than protect, it choreographed life. Heat traveled invisibly through ducts, guided by knowledge accumulated over generations, ensuring that those who worked, prayed, and lived within could perform their duties efficiently, without distraction from winter's bite. Even the guards stationed along arrow slits felt the benefit of flues hidden behind stone, pockets of warm air buffering them against the icy wind that pressed insistently against the castle's defenses. Secret corridors and hidden stairways played their part as well. Messengers, servants, and even nobles could traverse the castle unseen, moving along passages that carried the heat from one chamber to the next, their bodies warmed not by open flame but by the carefully managed breath of stone. These routes were not merely functional. They shaped the social rhythm of the castle. Important messages, discreet movements, and quiet observations could occur without disrupting the balance of comfort and living spaces. In this way, warmth was not just a luxury but a strategic tool, influencing human behavior, decisions, and the subtle hierarchies of daily life. And in the afternoons, as sunlight filtered through high windows and long tapestries, the interplay of heat and shadow created pockets of private comfort. A scholar in the solar could write by the glow of a small brazier, undisturbed by cold drafts. A lady could embroider by the gentle warmth radiating from a floor vent, her hands never stiffened by winter's chill. Even children playing indoors felt the invisible arms of heat guiding them, encouraging movement and life, shaping a day that was both productive and gentle. Kitchens hummed with activity, the pulse of life amplified by hidden flues that carried warmth upward, making labor more bearable, turning mundane chores into quiet acts of participation in the castle's living rhythm. Bread baked slowly, soups thickened, and even the distribution of water for washing or cooking benefited from subtle heating systems that few noticed but everyone relied upon. The castle itself acted as a silent manager of comfort, smoothing daily life in ways both practical and poetic. And as evening approached, shadows lengthening across stone floors, the work of hidden channels continued. Heat redistributed itself, anticipating the return of nobles to the great hall, the winding of children into warm beds, and the steady, patient care of servants ensuring that no ember went unattended. Even the most distant rooms, far from the obvious hearths, carried a trace of warmth, a reminder that comfort was a constant, invisible companion, a rhythm set deep into the stone and maintained by human diligence. In this way, the castle lived and breathed, a complex organism in which fire, stone, and air collaborated to shape not only survival, but the quality of daily existence. Every corridor, every hidden vent, every underfloor channel was part of an intricate system that connected people to warmth, and warmth to life. And those who understood it, builders, servants, stewards, held quiet power. They knew the castle's secrets, they could predict its behavior, they could guide the flow of heat and comfort to shape human action, mood, and energy without anyone noticing. The hidden channels of medieval warmth were thus more than engineering. They were poetry, patience, strategy, and care, an invisible force shaping life, guiding the rhythm of day and night, holding winter at bay while civilization thrived inside. And so, as night once again draped itself over the battlements and frost kissed the outer walls, the castle rested, its warmth settled like a quiet heartbeat within stone and timber. Every hidden channel, every careful flue, every ember tended with patient hands had fulfilled its purpose. The rooms were alive with lingering heat, breathing softly into the lives of those who had moved within them. Nobles, servants, guards, children, scholars, each connected to the castle not only by stone and mortar, but by the invisible flow of warmth that had been carefully curated for centuries. The secret corridors, the underfloor tunnels, the hidden vents, all had performed their silent choreography, shaping comfort without recognition, guiding human rhythm, ensuring survival, preserving dignity. Heat, in its most subtle form, had been a masterful teacher. It taught patience, care, vigilance, and collaboration. It revealed that survival was not simply endurance, but artistry, a collaboration between human ingenuity and the enduring resilience of stone. In the chambers above, furs and blankets still held the night's heat, as if the castle itself had exhaled gently into every room, leaving a trace of protection, a memory of fire, a whisper of care. The great hall, emptied of its occupants, still carried the warmth of meals shared and conversations passed in low, intimate tones. The kitchen, now silent, held the faint aroma of roasted bread and spiced stew, proof that warmth, though unseen, lingered beyond sight. Even as winter's chill pressed against the walls, even as snow gathered beyond the gates, the castle had triumphed. Not by magic, nor by brute force, but by understanding, by human hands shaping fire and stone, by centuries of knowledge passed quietly through builders, stewards, and caretakers. Every ember, every flue, every hidden passage had played its part in an invisible symphony of heat and life. And in this, we understand the true secret of medieval comfort. Warmth was never only fire. It was foresight. It was ritual. It was patience. It was collaboration between the seen and the unseen, the living and the inanimate, the labor of human hands and the memory of stone. To walk the halls of such a castle, even in imagination, is to feel the pulse of a world long past, yet intimately alive. It is to witness a civilization that understood that comfort was an achievement, that warmth was a craft, and that even in the harshest winters, life could be gentle, protected, and beautifully sustained. And as night deepens, as embers finally fade to coals, as the castle breathes softly in its sleep, we realize the secrets of medieval warmth were never hidden from life, but woven into it, invisible yet indispensable, a silent, enduring testament to the ingenuity and care of those who came before. The fire may dim, the snow may fall, the wind may howl, yet inside, in stone and heart, warmth lives on. The castle, in all its silent majesty, has spoken. And if we listen closely, we can still hear it, breathing, glowing, enduring.